Hey, my name's Charlie Petrie. I'm a square dance caller, and I've decided to start a square dance podcast with some of my friends and some people I don't know. My first season one, episode one is this one. I'm going to open with one of my closest, probably my closest friend in square dancing, and his name is Shawn Butler. He's on the screen with me, and Shawn Butler is currently from Georgia, Atlanta, Kennesaw area. I'm going to let him tell you about himself, and we're just going to have a little conversation about it. And I appreciate you joining us. Shawn, take it away, buddy.
Hey, thanks, Charlie. Glad to be on the podcast. Awesome idea. Yeah, I'm from Acworth, Georgia, via the New Jersey Turnpike. I've been in Georgia 18 years now. I was relocated for my job, UPS, which I've been with 34 years now. And fortunately, one of the great things about coming to Georgia was being introduced to the world of square dancing. My only exposure before coming down to Georgia was a Bugs Bunny cartoon. So that's all I knew about square dancing.
I have seen that. I have seen
See,
that cartoon. Yes, I
yeah,
have.
and so you never know where life leads you, and it's just one of the beautiful things about moving down here. And yeah, I started dancing 2010. So wow, 12, 13 years already. And it was funny because my wife was given a flyer. They were recruiting for classes, like next door neighbor, hey, come check it out. And she went the first night. She went to open house, and then the next week she said, hey, this is pretty cool, actually. I'd love for you to do it with me, but I understand if you don't want to do it. But at the very least, come watch and see what I'm going to be doing, because I'm going to be doing this for the next 25, 30 weeks or whatever. I'm like, okay. So I go there, Kennesaw Square Dealers in Kennesaw, Georgia. Raymond was the caller at the time. And I got there, I had my jacket on. I was just sitting in the corner, and I was like, okay, I'll be here for like 10 minutes, see what this silliness is all about, and then I'm out of here. Sat down, they started the music, and then Pat Tumlin, um, senior member of the club, right? One of the longtime, lifetime members, comes over and said, "Okay, sorry, we're gonna start now. So you're gonna be my partner." I said, "No, I appreciate that, ma'am. I'm just here to watch my wife. I'm probably gonna be here for 5, 10 minutes. I'm gonna be out of here." Nope, everybody's gotta come on up. Everybody's got to come up. You can't sit there and watch. I said, "I really appreciate that, ma'am. You're really nice." And she said, "Take your jacket off and get up. You're my partner." Okay.
Nice, nice.
And I got out there, and the first 15, 20 minutes, I was like, okay, this isn't that bad. And Charlie, I tell you, by the end of the night, by the end of those 2 hours, I was sold. I was sold. I was like, this is like the best kept secret in the world. And I could not wait for that next class to start. And I was like, let's get through this. It was just magic.
Now, how long have you been? So when did you start the dancing part of it?
September 2010. So yeah, 13
And
years.
and and so you've been calling since then. What percentage do you think of the stories you've heard of couples getting into it is my wife went and drew me in, and then the husband becomes the one that says, hey,
Yeah.
we're going to keep going to this. It's something that the wife is always the first interest. The guy's like, nah, it's not for me. And then all of a sudden the guy's like, he's pulling his wife, come on, we got to go back, so that's
Yeah.
a great story. And then that's kind of where I was. My in-laws actually got my wife and I involved years and years ago. And same thing, and my wife's kind of, you know, shied away from it at this point, and I'm head over heels with it. So I'm as locked in as you are. So that's all. So you start dancing, and Ray Monty, of course, we have a connection there. That's where we met, actually, is at Kennesaw. Ray's passed away now. He passed away a few years ago. Phenomenal guy. And so he gave you your start in calling.
He did. He did.
How'd that happen?
After going through about a year of the lessons, right? I learned
Mhm.
mainstream, learned plus as a dancer. I looked up there and I saw Ray, the way he was just kind of, mesmerizing the crowd. And what really hooked me that first night was that he ended the night with a singing call, and I was like, "Wait, what? What? You can do this to like popular music?" I was all in, and
Nice.
I loved Ray's singing calls, and all of his singing, patter and calling in general. And so after about a year, I said, "Hey, so how hard is it? Is it as hard as it looks?" He's like,
All right.
Sure you want to do this?" I'm like, let's give it a shot." And then a bunch of us actually at the time were learning to call, and you know, uh, it was so daunting,
Yeah.
to try to figure out the maze, and he's like, just start off with singing calls. I'm like, well, I don't even sing well to begin with, but okay. And then the patter, he was great. He would email like every day, like
Yeah.
a page of his notes. He was just like downloading. His brain was a computer, and he was downloading all of that information for us. And just little by little started building there until got comfortable to start doing a tip here or there, and then branching out and doing kind of like half dances or dances on Sunday afternoons.
Well, I don't know if I've told you this or not, but if not for you, I probably would not be calling. I don't know if I've ever mentioned this to you,
I don't think so.
but we used to sit on the front of the stage with
Right.
Ray,
Yeah.
in between tips when there was queuing going on, rounds and all that stuff. And I heard you at the end of a dance talking to Ray, and he said he was going to email you
Right.
the modules. And so I'm not making this up, Shawn. I thought I told you this before, but I went to Ray and I said, "What are y'all talking about?" He said, "Well, Shawn wants to learn to call." So I sent him, I emailed him a module every now and then. And I said, "Well, can you do that to me?" Because I wouldn't have had the nerve. I wouldn't have just gone up and said, "Hey, teach me how to call." So when I heard him talking to you and Dan, because
Mm-hmm.
I think Dan was kind of starting at that time too, that's what got me into it. And so then Ray was like, "Sure, if that's what you want." And so he started sending me a few modules here and there, and saying, "Hey, here, learn a singing call. Go learn a singing call. Come back, let you sing." So you, believe it or you are a big part of me being a square dance caller. I will not. I will never tell my wife that
That's great. Now
because
Ray
they're
was
so deep.
yeah,
They're so
Ray
deep
was
into
so
it.
Ray
God,
was so great to us. And I remember when we were starting out, we were going to another club member's home on Sunday afternoons.
right.
They'd clear out Randy and Patty Farris. They'd clear
Yeah.
out their furniture for us, and we would practice there. And I remember the first time you were there, and I barely knew you just as a club member.
Mhm.
We'd been in squares together, but I didn't really know you.
Right.
And your turn came around, and you did a singing called Jambalaya,
Hmm.
and I was like, who the heck is this guy? You blew the roof off of that living
Yep.
room in that house, and I was like, really? This is what I got to compete against now? And
I remember that.
I almost called it a day right there. But I'm like, you actually motivated the team, like, okay, you want to hang with these guys and gals, you got to pick up your game. So that
It
you
was
were your
awesome.
inspiration for me there.
Yeah, I know. I remember that going to Randy and Patty's. They'd move everything out. We had one square of folks and maybe another couple sitting there waiting to jump in. And we would do singing calls and we would play with patter the best we could because we were as green as you could be when it came to doing patter. And I would love to have recorded something there. We never recorded anything at Patty and Randy's house. I can't imagine what the patter sounded like back then. So what level do you call to now?
Yeah, mainstream and plus. Yeah.
Okay, good,
So
good, good. Is that where you dance? You don't dance any higher than that?
no, yeah, just
Okay,
dance
yeah,
up to
I've
plus.
done advanced lessons from beginning to end twice, and since there's not a whole lot of clubs in this area, just like with every other level, I don't dance anymore. So now I walk in there and somebody says motivate. I don't know. I don't. I know that's a plus call. I mean that's an advanced call, but I don't know it. So,
Yeah, yeah.
um,
I tell my
so
dancers they don't have anything to worry about with me trying to call advanced because I can't even spell A1 or A2.
don't even get me to the C's. So, you do you've got a club, you do club dances, and you myself and we've both done a couple of one night parties,
Mm-hmm.
parties with live bands and all that. um do you have any funny stories, anything that's happened, whether it be a club dance or a one nighter or anything like that, just something that sticks out in your mind?
The one nighters are really fun, the party dances, because usually the people there, like, they had zero exposure to square dancing, or very little. Hey, I did it back in elementary school. You hear that all the time.
Yeah, I've never
So,
heard
like,
that story about
yeah, right.
elementary school. Yeah.
And so, it's good to kind of see them, and there are people hesitating and everything. But then, once you teach them the basics, and once you drop the needle on that, right, drop the needle on MP3 file, they're good to go, and they have a blast, and that's so rewarding. And even if if it doesn't lead to them joining a club, they've still had a great night out, and we've shared our activity with them. There was one time though, and never again, never again. There was a it was a sixth to eighth grade kind of dance.
Right.
and it was at a school gymnasium. I'm picturing in my mind driving over. Okay, it's going to be like 20 kids, and hopefully some of the adults there will corral them, and we'll get through this. I got there, Charlie, and I kid you not, there were 175 kids.
No kidding.
175 kids. Utter chaos. Not even organized chaos, just plain chaos. So I'm trying to square these kids up, getting help from the adults, and it's
Never
like,
done a square dance with that many people, and you
nah,
got that many seventh
nah,
and eighth
nah. I'm
graders.
trying to square up all these kids, and fill a gymnasium. So that was like 25 minutes in. I'm trying to square them up. I got the
Right.
same music looping in behind. It's like driving everybody nuts. And then so try segment for like 10 minutes. And first couple of squares get it, but then like the deeper you go back into
Hang on, he froze up there. You still got me on the signal?
how about now?
Yep, I got you now.
Looks like we're better.
We're
Yeah.
better.
So it was chaos. And after 10 minutes, I like said to the organizer, I said, "This is just not. We're just not going to be able to do this for the next
Right.
90 minutes." He said, "Just play some music and let them go out there and dance." So the kids were like requesting modern day music, like I hadn't even
Right.
heard. Half the artists would like bring it up on YouTube and play it through my speakers, and I was like, that night could not end fast enough. But one nighters in general, that was the exception to the rule. One
Yeah,
nighters and party nights in general are very fun and rewarding.
that's good. That's good. So we have our ups, we have our funny times. Looking back, and I relate things to stand-up comedy, things like that. If you had to pick out a tip, now in square dancing, a tip is, if you don't know, a tip is basically 4, 5, 6 minutes of patter and then a singing call. So about 10 to 12 minutes. If you had to name a bomb, one time that you just fell apart, and we all have stories of many times of falling apart.
Yeah.
What one sticks out in your head?
Yeah. So how much time do we have?
I know. Go right ahead. One that if somebody says,
Well,
"Man, when
uh,
did you really
well,
just lose?"
it's this is like embarrassing. I guess this I would categorize this as like really embarrassing. And if there's other callers watching this, they're just going to be shaking their head that's at me and saying, you could have done this or that. But
No,
so
they've all done it. They've all done it. They won't admit it, but they've all done it. Go right
well,
ahead. Let me hear it.
so I mean, Ray taught me, Dan Mitchell, another mentor of mine, taught me, listen, I don't care how good you think you're going to get, always write down at least one, number one couple, number four couple. Just put it
Right.
in your L's. So if you forget, you can look down and do that. So have my square picked out, head down, writing it down. Okay, Bob and Marilyn, my number one couple, wonderful couple, like come to almost every dance
Right.
at Kennesaw Square Dealer. So I start, getting into it, and I'm sighting, I'm moving them around pretty good. I'm like, all right, I think it's gonna be time to resolve. So let me pair up Bob with Marilyn. And I'm trying, Charlie, and it's like I'm like circulating, trading. I'm doing every trick in the book, and like nothing. Like how am I not pairing up Bob and Marilyn? What is going on? What is wrong with me? And out of the corner of my eye, I see on the sideline sitting down Marilyn.
You're all sitting there.
So sitting down. And so in the time that I put my head down to write down my number one to four couple, Marilyn had given up her spot to let another lady dance with Bob. And I was just like, oh my goodness. I'm glad I looked over. Otherwise, I would still be trying to resolve them years later. It was just so embarrassing. It was funny, but it was embarrassing.
Oh, that's awesome.
So
That's
I'm,
awesome.
and yeah, never again. And then I write down multiple squares.
Oh no, everybody has one of those, and they got lots of them. But the fact that they weren't even in the square, that's a good one. Usually, I get out there and I'll write them down. And if I don't know, if I'm at a club that I don't know or whatever, I will write down number one couple, red shirt, red shirt. Number two couple, blue shirt, yellow skirt. And then music starts, boom, boom, boom. I'm going along, and then I realize that there's a third red shirt in there,
Nice.
and I'm like, oh, I don't know anybody. So at least mine are in the square. So you got me on that. Yours wasn't even in the square, so you never found that. So with your get outs and everything like that, and the get outs, how you get to the corner, how you resolve. What do we think your favorite call? Plus mainstream, just what stands out to you as your favorite call?
Yeah, I like the surprise get outs, and you got to be use those sparingly, right? You don't
Mhm.
want people to start guessing. And like, when you were over the other night at Kennesaw, and we were doing a couple of duets together at the end. I like one in a singing call where essentially it's callers will get this, so I can go through it. Right? It's square through, swing through, boys run, Ferris wheel. Centers do a right and left through. Centers do a half sashay and swing. Pause. The one behind you
Right,
gets
right.
them every time. Gets them every time. So like, you got to do that maybe once every couple of
Yeah, no,
months.
that's a good one.
This is a good one. And I let and patter, and it's a little bit of a sophisticated setup to get there, but the end result is a zoom into a right and left grand,
Right.
right? So you have let's say the 2 and 4 couples paired in the center, and then you have the 1 and 3 split up, but they're half sashayed out
Right.
on the outside. You call zoom, and it's got to be quick, right? And then a lot of times catch them by surprise. And I'll try to coach them like, hey, this is going to be quick. Get ready. Zoom, right, left, grand. And it's
Yeah.
like, whoa. But again, you,
Yeah,
you can't do that
and
every time.
as long and if you don't do it often, dancers are not going to pick up on it.
Right.
A lot of callers that are dancing wouldn't see it coming,
Yep.
because they don't like it's something that's not expected.
Yep. Yep. And,
So
and I will tell you, can I tell you my favorite
yeah,
names
yeah,
for the
oh,
call?
absolutely, yeah,
I love the names for these calls. It's like I have no idea about the origin, but my favorite name is Box the Nat.
boxing that
Like, like,
absolutely.
like, like, like who came up with that genius? Love the name of
And you know what? The only time I use boxing that is when I have to get out a half sachet. No other reason do I call boxing that, and I should call it more, but I don't. But that was one thing Ray told me. He was like, if they're hash sachet and you can't get them out, just box the net, and they're good. And you go right and left through whatever you want to go from there. So in the from for you and myself, we would be third graders when it comes to calling to some of the callers that we know that have been calling for 30, 40 years. But right now, what do you consider yourself a memory module site? If you go up to a dance, how do you prepare for that? What do you do?
Well, yeah, I mean, it's a combination, with the patter of memory and sight. And I remember asking Ray, probably shortly after he started pumping all those emails over to me. I
Right.
said, "Listen, Ray, I'm not 20 years old. I would like to get at least 1% good, where I can kind of get through a tip, and
Right.
I don't get booed off the stage, things like that." And he's like, "Listen, this isn't popular opinion." He flat out told me, he said, "But you need to memorize as many modules and zeros as you can. You may not even understand what I'm telling you right now, but start doing that. Build your memory bank, and then work in the site." Right. So, and I'm still building and building to this day. And I like to tell people, if they say, "Hey, where do you think you are in your calling career?" And I say, like, with anything, it's crawl, walk, run. I think I'm probably in the walking stage now. I was in the
Yeah.
crawling stage for a while. One of these days, I like to get to the running stage, but just got to kind of know where you're at and try not to do too much.
Yeah.
But yeah, a combination of memory and sight. Um, when I'm going through the pattern.
Yeah. It's helpful to know, if you have a club, which you do, know your dancers, and if they don't sit down on you while you're writing stuff down. But so that helps with the site. But yeah, you have to have, and you don't have to have a great memory. I don't. But I've got a handful of modules that I can get into and then get out of. So I understand that completely. So when you're setting up for a dance
Hmm.
in it's mainstream and plus, and you got rounds in the middle and all that. What do you go in thinking? I mean, minus a theme. If there's a theme, yeah, I get it. And I will say this: you're one of the best theme people I've ever seen.
Oh,
Um,
thank you.
when it comes to, hey, Shawn, we're going to do this kind of dance, you are from first tip to last tip on the theme, and you're 100% in, and that's great. A lot of callers will that first tip will be, hey, here's a Beach Boys song for your beach theme, and then the next song is AC/DC, which I love AC/DC, but still, you keep to the theme, and that's great. So
Yeah.
if somebody says, hey, we're just doing a dance next week, mainstream plus, probably 5 squares.
Mhm.
How do you go into that?
Yeah, well, I mean, I keep a log of everything I've ever done, going back to what we practice in Brandy and Patty's living room,
Yep.
right? And that's just when you're doing the club calling, twice a month we dance, first and third Fridays typically. right? So it's like, okay, I can't really do what I did last week. But even if I like, okay, hey, at your club in Calhoun Cherokee Promenaders, they want me to call a dance. I'll look back like, okay, I did something 9 months ago there. What did I do? Try to keep it fresh. So I
Yep.
go in, right. So it's keeping it fresh. So anytime once one dance ends, I start preparing for the next dance. So
Right.
what singing calls am I going to use? I never use any of the singing calls back to back dances, themes or no themes, right? And it's quite rare that I'd actually repeat any singing calls over a 6 month period. There's just so much good
That's
music
impressive. Yep.
out there, right? And then it's I take it to I think the next level. And then a lot of times it's just to my detriment because timing becomes an issue a lot of times. But like if I plan for 5 singing calls, right? So you have 4 figures in each singing call. I'm planning for 20 different figures.
That's
Planning now whether that actually happens in real
that
life,
right, but that is an absolute rarity, brother. I will tell you
yeah,
that right now. That's
yeah.
impressive.
And I figure trying to give people as much variety as possible, and then you also have to be cognizant of the opens, the breaks, and the closes,
Right.
right? So you don't want it. I've been to dances where it seems like I've danced 15 grand squares, right,
Absolutely.
or
Yeah. No, that's
15
something
circle
you
less.
and dancers not now. Some dancers will say that to you, but you've got to be aware of that you can't open. Especially if you like singing, and I do. The side space grand square or the head lady center teacup chain is perfect for singing. Um, but you can't do it every time. You got to
Right.
pick the songs you want it on, and other than that, it's whatever men start right, Alabama left, whatever. Um,
Yep.
so yeah, no, you're and I've been around you long enough. This is why I'm glad you're number one on my podcast, because I know a good bit about you. You prepare like nobody I've ever seen, and I've seen a few callers at this point. And so that being said, you're really good at just preparing it. So you back a long time ago, we had a thing, or you had a thing called Klein time. Tell me real
Yeah.
quick about that.
Klein time, that was really, really helpful in my development as a caller. So there was this Western wear place
Right.
in Acworth owned by Pete and Penny Klein. And he actually had the idea, to bring people in to buy Western wear stuff. Hey, why don't I bring some square dancers in? Let's have Shawn call for 2, sometimes 3 hours on a Sunday afternoons. Seemed like there was no air conditioning, and a lot of times you're on
I
concrete
don't think there
floor.
was air conditioning. I remember that there was no air conditioning.
Right, and like it was not only was a Western wear store, but it was like kind of like everything else imaginable that
Yep.
like VCR parts from 1978. If you needed a Betamax, go to Pete's, right?
Yes.
So they had everything there. So that was really helpful in my development because I was able to try things. The dancers were very forgiving. They were there to
Understanding.
kind of help themselves, like, oh, this is extra practice for us. So we
Yeah,
were
it
kind of
made them better. It really did. I
yeah we
spent a lot of time out there. It really did.
yeah
It,
we were all in together. So I was able to kind of like, okay, let's try this type of pattern. Let's see how much I've memorized for this, and if I
yeah.
mess up in the middle, okay, then I'm going to try to sight out of it and see how well I do there. And it really helped build my confidence. So when I would do the guest tips at Ray's or any of the other places in the area, whether that was John Norris at Cherokee Squares or
Cherokee Squares. Yeah.
up in Silver Stars in Lawrenceville, things like that,
Right.
I was a lot more comfortable. And you mentioned Klein time, and back in the crawl stage, it was there were some tough times. It's like, man, I'm putting so much work into this, but I don't know if I'm cut out for this. This is tough. This is a lot of work. And I just don't know if I'm long for this. And I remember one time, a sweaty Sunday afternoon, was packing up my equipment,
Right.
and a dancer came up to me and she said, "Hey, just between you and me, I just want you to know that your Sunday dances at Klein time are the best 2 hours of my week."
No kidding.
And I was like, okay. And I hear that in my head every day and every time
Oh,
I
I
get
get
ready
it.
for dance. And
Yeah,
that motivates me to this day. And I'll never forget that.
that's awesome. So Raymond was a big part of our beginnings, for sure. Uh, any other callers jump out to you as really giving you a heads up, a step up on everybody, or where you are right now?
Yeah. I mean, folks that give me guest tips over the years, so whether that was John Norris or Clyde Couch, Ronnie
right,
Langley, right, folks like that. But I mentioned a little while ago, Dan Mitchell, who is legendary caller,
right.
and he calls for the wheel arounds now, right? He used to also call for Peachtree Squares. I don't think they're in existence anymore.
Now they folded. Yeah,
Yeah, unfortunately. But let me tell you about Dan. So you know, he took a bunch of us new callers. It was me, it was Dan Markwood, it was Al and Julia Smith, Curtis Smith, no relation,
yeah,
Ronnie Langley, a couple other brothers. And he said, I got this place down by the airport where they dance, and we can go there Sunday afternoons in Hateville.
right.
Hateville by the airport, and I eventually dubbed us the Hateville Hopeful, right?
Nice.
And it was like, I don't know, 40, 50 Sunday afternoons in a row. He would teach us and break it down, put us in these real life situations, and he'd give us homework. And I hate homework, but he would give us
I
homework
understand. Yeah, no.
but it was purposeful.
When I see
And
Dan now, he gives me homework if I'm talking to him
see,
about something. Yeah,
yeah, but it was well worth it. And the thing about it, like he didn't want anything. He just
yeah,
wanted us to work hard, and he just wanted to kind of keep the do his part to keep the activity
right.
going because he loved it so much. And the stuff, my goodness, like this, I'll get in situations right now, and I'll have people half sashayed, or
Yeah,
and hopefully I don't get into like situations where it's 3-1 on one side, but like he taught us, like, hey, use your half tag the lines, use your tag the lines,
mhm,
face in, and don't panic. He's like, I remember him saying, well, what do you like to resolve from? Box 1-4 or 1P 2P line. What's your preference? And I'm like, box 1P. I mean, box 1-4. And he's like, no, the answer is anything,
yep,
anything, because you are in control up there. You run the show,
yeah.
right? So you need to be comfortable, and just those little things. And I mean, it just comes into play every time I'm calling. Like, oh, there's Dan on one shoulder, there's Ray on the other shoulder,
Yep.
right? So yeah, Dan
And
was
there's a
amazing.
lady at Klein Time telling you it's the best 2 hours of her day.
That's right, that's right. And then Pete
So
trying to
we
sell me a VCR.
we got about 3 minutes left on.
Okay,
I think I get 30 minutes on Zoom for what I have. Favorite singing call, if you can get it down to one.
I'm not going to get it down to one, but I'll quick because there's so much good music
Your
out there.
go-to, if you walk in, somebody says, "Hey, do a guest tip for me, Shawn." What do you pull?
Yeah,
And it's someplace you've never been, so
yeah.
it's not something you're repeating. What do you pull?
Boy, tough one. But I think my go-to one for the last 8 or 9 years, because I love singing it so much and it gets the crowd going, is and it is the most least traditional square dance singing call of all time, is Donna Summer's "Hot Stuff."
Okay, yep, I've heard you do it. It's a fantastic song, absolutely.
Yeah,
And there's so much pattern music out there. I won't get into that. I mean, because you have traditional banjos, fiddles, and you have the new stuff coming out on these other labels. It's just phenomenal. So tell us what's your schedule look like? What do you do calling? What do you got coming up?
yeah. So I'm teaching a class right now every Thursday night. We just started. It's a plus class, so either a refresher for
Mhm.
most folks, but there are some folks who've never had it before, and we're going into class number 3 this Thursday night.
Okay.
And we're back at it with a club dance at Kennesaw Square Dealers.
When do y'all dance at Kennesaw?
Yeah, Kennesaw at Ben Robertson Center, 2753 Watts Drive.
And
Um, Pin it.
which Fridays is that? First and third,
The
second, fourth?
first and third.
Okay.
Sometimes that varies depending on the
All
availability of
right.
halls.
Before we get shut down, let me say this. You have also one of the finest YouTube channels
Oh yeah,
that I've
yeah.
seen. So Shawn Butler, YouTube,
S
correct?
Butler, S
And
Butler, S
S
Butler.
Butler, YouTube. You document and keep track of things better than anybody I've ever seen too. You are the one of the most organized people I've ever met, which is huge for square dance calling. Just to keep track of everything that's going on. So definitely check out you on YouTube, S Butler. You don't do you don't do anything on Facebook really, right?
No, I'm the last
Okay,
holdout.
and you might look at Instagram on occasion. So that's kind of my realm where I kind of put that in. So Shawn, thank you, brother. I'm glad you were number one. You're number one for me. We started together, and one day we'll end together. Who knows? We'll have our own retirement dance. They'll come and do a honorary dance for us. Brother, I appreciate it, and I'll talk to you soon.
Thank you. Good luck with the show. Awesome
All
idea.
right, Shawn. Absolutely. I'll talk to you soon, buddy.
Take care.